Hi, I'm Ace, this is You Can't Do That, and in this video, I'm going to tell you about my top 5 favorite mistakes and anomalies heard on classic rock recordings. Now, things do not always go to plan in the recording studio, and back in the days before music was sort of sanitized and everything was made to sound perfect, sometimes these imperfections would find their way onto the final product. And the perfect example of this is my number 5 entry on this list, and it's going to be Tell Her No by the Zombies. Now, in the second chorus, the lead singer, Colin Blunstone, was going for the line, "Don't take her love from my arms," but he sort of tripped over his words. He sort of jumbled the line up, and for whatever reason, that made it onto the final recording. Now, Del Shannon, who did a fantastic cover of that song, apparently he went to the Zombies and said that how he was going to do the song, but he said, you know, I've been listening to this for hours, and I've asked everybody, and none of us can figure it out. What is this? What is that line? And the Zombies had to tell him, yeah, it was a mistake. So I don't know why it was left on the recording. Personally, I think it would have been better if it hadn't been there. I don't know if the only thing I can think of is that he nailed the rest of the vocal take, and they just figured, like, you know, it's not going to get any better than this, and nobody will notice. I don't know. I mean, it was a pop record, and they probably didn't expect that the song would still be played on oldies radio 60 years after it was recorded. So, I don't know. This is probably the only entry on this list that I think would have been better if the mistake didn't exist on the final record. So, now, the next entry on this list is something that was not the fault of the musicians. It was actually a glitch during the mastering process of the record. And the record in question is Let Me Roll It by Paul McCartney and Wings. So during the last chorus of the song, at the end of the chorus, it sort of skips backwards, and you hear the same beat twice. That was an accident during the mastering process, but it turned out that the tape skip was actually the same length in time as a single beat in the song. So it fit in perfectly. It sounded intentional. You know, in fact, he liked it so much that he played the glitch live and still does to this day. So it's a good thing that glitch happened after the last chorus in the song, because it would have sounded weird and wrong if it was anywhere else in the song. And as it turned out, it sounds, it gives that last part a little bit more emphasis, a little bit more identity. And funny enough, the same thing happened several years earlier when the Beatles were recording Revolution 1 during the White Album. Now, the Beatles have a lot of more interesting anomalies in their recordings than that, so we'll just consider Revolution 1 to sort of be an honorable mention on this list. moving on, number 3 is going to be Louie, Louie by the Kingsmen. And this is one that people may not realize was a mistake because it just fits in so well with the vibe of the whole song. So at the end of the guitar solo, the lead singer, Jack Ellie, came in a bit early, abruptly stopped himself, and then drummer Lynn Easton sort of tried to maybe cover up for it with a sort of clumsy drum fill. Now, I'm not 100% that the drum fill was sort of like an on-the-spot decision, because if you listen to that song, he was doing all kinds of chaotic little the drum fills all throughout the song, so that part very well could have been planned. But at any rate, the vocal coming in early, it's one of the more, honestly, I don't know if it's the most iconic part of the song, but it's certainly an iconic moment in a song that has a lot of iconic moments. So number 2 on my list, this one is actually not a mistake or an anomaly, really. It's more of a creative / financial decision. And the recording in question is A Quick One While He's Away by The Who, off of their album A Quick One, or Happy Jack, depending on what part of the world you live in. Now, this recording was a mini rock opera. It was about 9 minutes long, and during one of the later sections in the song, they had written a cello part. The problem was that they couldn't afford to have a cello player come in and perform the part. So what do you do in that situation? Do you sort of adapt the part to an instrument already featured in the group? That's kind of what they did. They decided to sing the cello part, but they didn't do the typical oohs and ahs that you might associate with a wordless vocal part. Instead, they did this. Yes, they actually sang the word cello over and over again in place of the cello part. Honestly, it's hard to imagine this song would have been better if they had actually gotten a cello player in there to play the part. And it's kind of a goofy song anyway, so it's just like another one of those sort of happy accidents where the song didn't sound the way that they had originally intended it to sound, but due to their working within the limitations they had and their sort of unique ingenuity, it came out possibly better than it was originally conceived. So that brings us to my favorite number 1 classic rock recording anomaly. And if you saw the thumbnail, you may know what it is. It is, of course, the F-bomb in Hey Jude. So, pretty simple. Paul McCartney was recording the piano track for the song. He, I guess, hit a wrong note, and he yelled a very British expletive, which you can hear on the recording.
Remember to let her under your skin when you begin.
Now, as the story goes, their producer George Martin, he was like, look, we can clean this up. We can get rid of that. No big deal. But John Lennon's like, nah, keep it in, because they knew that nobody would if anybody would hear it, they wouldn't know what was being said. So they were sort of like, but they would know. The people that were hearing it wouldn't know what they were saying, but the Beatles would know. So they were sort of like getting away with something. And, the Beatles were, they liked getting away with stuff on their recordings. Like, on the song Girl from the album Rubber Soul, they sang the words tit over and over again. And when old man George Martin said, what was that word you were singing there? They said, oh, that was dit with a D. So they really, it was like I think like a game to them to sort of get away with stuff. But anyway, back to the F word. Of course, several years later, John Lennon would actually put that word front and center in the lyrics to his song Working Class Hero. So it's debated when the first usage of that word was in recorded music. It certainly, the Beatles certainly weren't the first to do it. In fact, the Beatles weren't even the first on this list to have done this. Truly a chaotic recording, that was. So, that's my list. What are some of your favorites that I didn't think of? Maybe put them in the comments if you'd like. But at any rate, thank you for watching, and take care.